Hello everyone. You already know, once again, Panacota here with some more Open Window podcast. Today is episode 3, and I was thinking about topics that I could talk about. And even though I had a couple ideas, I wasn't really sure whether I needed to do more research or whether they work in a podcast setting. But then I also realize that this is a goddamn podcast, right? You don't need to research all that much. Doesn't need to be all academic. So yeah, I said fuck it. I just want to give my opinion on certain things and maybe educate on a basic level for the people who may not know anything about a certain area. And for today, I have thought that, let's talk about a couple famous or rather famous statements or theories from Sigmund Freud. And I can already see a couple people like rolling their eyes because for those who may not know, Freud is somehow always a part of psychology, philosophy, even language, like the English language. When you talk about this, somehow he always jumps in, and you need to learn about what he thought would be right or groundbreaking or whatever in the past, even though for the can you even say that untrained ear, right? For the people who may not know a lot, it might sound plausible, and even for me, some of it does sound plausible, but it also sounds quite bizarre. But I will get to to this bizarre part. You will know what I'm talking about shortly. Also, I don't know when this will be uploaded, but tomorrow I will be starting a new series with Apollo the Almighty. I believe he wanted the podcast to be called the Further Beyond podcast. And we will just be talking about mysteries and conspiracy theories. Like, I present one, he presents one, and then the third part would be something random, maybe true crime, maybe something that is happening at the moment in the world, something mysterious or crime related. I don't know the details, but this is something I was looking forward to. So just so you know, you might want to check it out if you are interested in Apollo's CDD Conspiracy Deep Dive series, or if you're interested in mysteries in general. But yeah, I was just digressing once again. Let's just get into today's topic, Sigmund Freud, and I want to start off with his psychoanalytic theory, which describes the id, ego, and superego as parts of the human psyche. And to explain to you all what these three terms, id, ego, and superego, even mean, let's just start with the first term being id, spelled ID. And this is the part in our psyche, in our brain, that focuses on the human's primal instincts, like what we want from birth, like genetic wise, like for example procreation, like sexual urges, though it doesn't even need to be procreastic, or procreational, I mean, but yeah, sexual urges are like primal instincts. And of course something like wanting to eat, wanting to drink, like your survival instinct. This is called id, and this is something that happens unconsciously. It's in your like psyche, and you don't actively make it happen. It just is there, according to Freud. And from this, we go to the ego, like ego. And ego is the part of our psyche that is outside. This is what you would say happens like outside of your psyche. In reality, it's your rational side, follows the reality principle, meaning that, yeah, as I said earlier or just now, this is what you show to the other people. This is what others, like as I said, see. And the ego is the mediator between the id and the third part of your psyche, according to Freud, the superego. And the superego being the right and wrongs you learn in your life, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, influences from the outside. So we walk around through life and there are always rules and norms that you have to follow because you want to still be accepted and part of society. You have to follow certain rules and certain like norms to be accepted. This is, I think, as basic as I can explain these three terms. I believe you could go way more in depth, but yeah, I don't think this is even necessary, since this is not the main thing I want to talk about today. But yeah, you have these three terms, and according to Freud, you need to have a balance. So the ego usually suppresses the id, like your primal instincts and urges, because society does not like, or let's say the superego in this sense, does not like the id being outside too much, being shown. So therefore the you as the ego, your rational reality side, has to suppress the ego and show the quote unquote accepted side that we know as like being human. Not this is what you would say is the difference between humans and animals. Though if you suppress the id too much, you will not be able to hold it in any longer, and metaphorically you would just explode. So your id would overflow and your urges have to be, or had to be, satisfied. Saturate, yeah, I think satisfied is the right word, right? And I hope this makes sense, because as I said at the beginning of the pod, this is not something that is all that easy to understand, especially orally. You might need to see a picture, and for those who are watching this on YouTube, you will be seeing a pic. But for those only listening, yeah, I hope my points got across. But yeah, as every theory, you also need to look at criticism, and from what I gathered, and my personal opinion of this is also more or less the same, I don't really support or fuck with this theory, since, yeah, three terms, three parts of your psyche are all there is. Sounds way too abstract, minimalistic. It is for sure not that simple. There are more parts working together, way more stuff going here, like happening in the background. Freud's theory, I might say, is a like good basis, but not like shouldn't be what you look at when you analyze someone's psyche. You should look at more recent theories or mix some stuff together. But this is a topic for another day, and I don't feel qualified talking about psychology if this isn't even what I study in university right now. Though, and also, I don't want to even go into detail about Freud's like sexist theories, that they are mainly focused on men, and women are usually seen as inferior, or certain like theories or statements he dropped are, yeah, as I said, straight up sexist and don't really take women seriously. Also, I even remembered right now, I had a talk a couple weeks ago about Goku's Ultra Instinct, and yeah, this does sound like a completely different topic, 180, but yeah, relax, I get there, I will get there. I was talking about Ultra Instinct and how this works, like your hidden power and not thinking, just moving, and this reminded me of Freud's psychoanalytic theory, more or less at least, being that if you suppress your id too much, like I explained earlier, then it will overflow and take control in that sense. So in a way, a human body would, or psyche, would go into ultra instinct kinda when you suppress your id too much. So your body would move on its own, if that makes sense. And you would be doing stuff that you wouldn't normally do because now there's no suppression of anything. You are completely free and you only have one or two things as a goal in front of you, and this is what you want to achieve, similar to Ultra Instinct, where Goku just does not even really think and just moves to beat his opponent. It's all natural. So yeah, in a sense, this is kind of similar, but I think I don't even want to really talk about this topic any longer because everything I wanted to say was said, and I really don't feel like sitting here for longer talking about this weird ass old theory about your three parts of your psyche. Yeah, let's move on to something that Freud said. I didn't even know that Freud was like known in this field, but I took a university class on taboos and transgression, transition and transgression, and Freud came up. Who would have thought? As I said, he somehow is everywhere at all times. But Freud, and what did we read about him in this class? It was about the uncanny, like what makes you scared, what is the uncanny, and what isn't, and how to make something uncanny. And I thought, yeah, this does sound way more plausible and interesting than what I what I knew about him from other classes or in other areas. This might be something that is actually more interesting to people than his psychology BS. Before we can understand what constitutes as uncanny and what the meaning of the word really means, we need to look at the word itself, like the morphological aspects. And for this, Freud looked into various dictionaries, and good for me, since yeah, I speak German, he found something in the German dictionary, because uncanny translated to German means unheimlich, which also, when you translate it, like word for word directly, unheimlich means not from home. And even though at first this sounds bizarre, like what, why, or like what would not from home have to do with uncanny. But it's rather simple and also kind of weird, even for me as a German speaker, because the word unheimlich has double meanings all over the place. Unheimlich, as I said, means not from home, but also uncanny, like something that is scary. But if you look at the opposite of uncanny, or in German unheimlich, you get the word heimlich. And heimlich also has a double meaning, of course, as the opposite, meaning from home. But the twist comes here that heimlich, like the opposite of unheimlich, the opposite of uncanny, in the German language means heimlich and translates to secretive or something similar to uncanny. So the opposite of uncanny is kind of uncanny itself. But what do I even mean by that? Like, why am I really talking about all this translating between English and German? Yeah, and the answer is, yeah, as always, kind of simple. Because if we take this statement, not from home, saying that uncanny means that something is not from home, we can understand what uncanny really means and what it takes for something to be or to become uncanny. Freud defines the uncanny as something that we now as adults, like in our real world, or when we look at movies, when we watch movies, when we play games, read books, whatever, uncanny feelings can be wherever and whenever you want. And Freud says things that you as a child knew or thought to be real, you now as an adult know they are not real, but when you see them in reality, all of a sudden, then you have this uncanny feeling. I have a couple examples, but I'm gonna keep them for the end. But now, so I don't lose any people here of boredom or whatever, I want to get straight to the point. This means that we live in this real world. We follow real principles, but when the fantastic, when something supernatural suddenly appears, that we connect to our childhood, to our past beliefs, and it suddenly, even though it shouldn't be real, it should not be realistically possible in our real world, when it suddenly appears or seems to appear, we have this uncanny feeling, a very weird sense of being scared. This is not your simple jump scare. This is not what you see in a lot of horror games, horror movies. This is not just shock value. This reaches the term terror, I would even say. And I think Vsauce, the YouTuber, gave a very good example on what terror really is. And I think, yeah, let's just, if you enter your house, right, your room, whatever, and without your knowledge, and you of course also don't see it really, every furniture, everything in your house was replaced with the same thing, that it looks the same, it smells the same, everything is the same, but every piece of furniture, every water bottle you had there, every lamp was replaced with an identical copy, you would, I assume, feel a difference. And this also, I guess, sounds weird, because at first glance you would say, how would you even know that it was all changed, right? But I feel like that if you enter your room, you would instantly feel that something is off. I think the term vibe even fits here perfectly. You enter your room and everything, even though it looks and smells and everything is the same, something is still off, and you have these weird thoughts about what could have happened here, who was here, and why is everything the same but also isn't. This is what terror really means. Having the unknown scare you, and not something that you see in front of yourself, right? Not just simple shock value. So I think that, and why am I even really talking about Freud's like statements on the uncanny? I think this is something that movies and like live action series, or even like anime, whatever, everything when it comes to horror, they should be looking at things like this. Make your player or your watcher scared shitless, not because of simple like jump scares or weird like shock value, shock horror. Really have them immersed in a real world, preferably. Like most good horror games have you in a real setting, but add supernatural elements that make you question your beliefs, question yourself, and this is what makes something scary. This is why after watching Taco and Tamales on Twitch this week and last week playing Outlast, I was reminded why I really love Outlast. Outlast 1 especially, of course. 2, in my opinion, does not come close to the fear you feel in Outlast 1, but Outlast does not win because of simple shock and jump scares, but it wins because it has this real setting in a like real psychiatric facility, and it adds kinda supernatural elements. But to have to come back to what Freud was saying in his like uncanny theory thingy, I don't even know what the term is. There are certain things that constitute to something being uncanny. For example, when like furniture, when objects, yeah, right, this is the term, when objects, so not living things start to live, get souls. I think this is called animism, but don't quote me on that. When something is repeating itself, even though it shouldn't, right? When you see something again, or when you see yourself somewhere. For example, you have a painting and suddenly you see yourself in this painting. You are in the real world looking at a painting and you are suddenly in this painting as well. So this is the supernatural aspect. Of course, simple magic and sorcery, this is like as easy as you can get when it comes to the fantastic. But I think you get my point, right? I think I'm talking for way too long about mostly trivial things, but like to summarize this last part about the uncanny, I think this is what you should really look at when you want to write horror, when you want to have your audience scared shitless. Because a jump scare will scare you once, maybe twice, like the same jump scare, right? And this is it. You will know that this trick, after you cannot really replay the game or rewatch the movie. You will not be scared at all because you already know when the jump scare happens. But true horror, you will feel scared all the time when you follow, when you try to have your audience feel terrorized. Not terrorism, like it's happening in the world right now, but feeling terror in the sense that something in a real world becomes unreal and you question yourself and everything around you, which is, yeah, it doesn't need to happen physically. It usually happens in your mind, but I think you get what I'm even talking about. I think I should stop before I start rambling about other things and start talking gibberish. But yeah, I think this is all I wanted to say in this episode. I was just like thinking about Freud the last couple of days. Yeah, and thought, yeah, this could be an interesting topic. These two theories or statements he dropped, to just give my opinion on it and explain what they are really all about. But yeah, thanks for listening once again. I don't know when the 4th episode will drop, either next week or in 2 weeks, but no promises because my next semester starts next week. I will need to see if I'll have enough time to just sit down and record stuff, but I'm gonna try at least, right? No promises, yeah, whatever. Thanks for listening and have a good one.